When I was thinking about before you went live here on YouTube, by the way, we are live, of course, on YouTube, on Spotify. We are, of course, recording. I have a feeling this might be one of my favorite shows of the year, hopefully. And it looks good on paper, but as we all know, it doesn't always translate like that. So, actually, I close my window here in my computer. There we go. Close that. If you guys can hear me on YouTube, that's good. But yeah, I feel very confident about this, about today's episode. I feel very good about it. A lot of things to talk about. Of course, this is the Four Verticals podcast, episode, what is it, 151 now? Yeah, 151 for December 11th, 2025. High atop a somewhat still chilly Jacksonville, Florida. I have it on humidity that it's going to get even chillier next week. A lot more colder air coming in for most of us in the southeastern region. So just be mindful about that next week. It is 68 here, but 68 for us Floridians is pretty cold. But we have a lot to talk about here. I mean, paper pop worthy here. Josh Pate style paper pop. Sherrone Moore fired. We didn't do a video on it last night. I wanted to wait a little bit for things to sort of clear up. It was fired yesterday afternoon. I'll get into that. We also have college football playoff first round predictions, but we're doing the P4 on, or really P2. Oh yeah, P4 versus P4 games. We're not doing the G5 games. We'll do those next week on Tuesday. But we have Texas A&M, Miami, and Bama OU. We're doing those today. We also have thoughts on the Doomsday trailer. I thought there was going to be some big news today. I didn't necessarily think it was going to be Sherrone Moore, but that was technically yesterday. But I did leave it a little bit. I did leave it somewhat open-ended on the Tuesday show. But I was referring to the Doomsday trailer on the Tuesday show. The trailer is not out today. It'll be out next week. I'll touch into all that stuff. Then we also have Bucs versus Falcons game 2 predictions. That's tonight on Amazon, by the way. So, in case you are new here and watching the show live on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, please do 2 things here real quick. Number 1, like the streams and the videos when we do them. And also be sure to subscribe to the channel. We need 10 more subscribers. Okay, our goal is to get to 20 subscribers by the end of the month. It's December 11th, so we have 21 days or so left until the end of the month or so, give or take. Math was probably wrong on that, but who cares? We still have time, but we just need 10 more subscribers. That's all we need is 10 more. So if you're a current subscriber, you're listening to the show live or later on the replay, you're even on Spotify too. Be sure to make sure you're subscribed. And if you are subscribed, make sure to let your friends know. If you're big college football fans like me, especially around this time of the year, make sure to do it, okay? Make sure to let them know to just subscribe to this channel. It's like college football. Helps us out, helps you out to get more voices, I guess, in your college football ears, if you will. That's all we're asking for, and that's all we need, okay? Nothing happens when you do that. Nothing doesn't sign up you for anything. It helps our channel grow, and it keeps everything free. Sherrone Moore fired yesterday. This was something that I will say I remember Josh Pate saying something about this back, I believe it was in November or October, about, hey, there's, as the coaching carousel was starting to go after, James Franklin was fired, Brian Kelly, then Hugh Freeze. Josh mentioned on his show that there was a name out there that could be in trouble that no one's talking about. Apparently this was that, Sherrone Moore. He was fired. Now, grant you, when I saw the news yesterday on X, Twitter, I was kind of, at first I thought, oh, okay, this is one of those joke accounts, the No3 account, or like a fake 247 account. No, it was a real thing. It was a real thing. And he's out for reasons of having inappropriate behavior with a staff member. That's all I'm going to get into. It's pretty simple in terms of why he was fired. Wasn't anything to do with performance-based, even though I think some folks will say that was part of the reason, but wasn't the reason why they fired him. Of course, he's fired for cause. There's no buyout with that. But just the overall, we'll touch on this briefly before we get into the real reason you're probably here, is the personal stuff of Sherrone. I know he was arrested last night. Yesterday was a bit of a whirlwind for Michigan fans. He's being fired, and yeah, at first, as a Michigan fan, you're probably like, yeah, we finally got him fired. We're going to hire a proper coach instead of what we did the last time when the previous administration left. We did the interim thing because of the scandal with the sign stealing. We didn't know what the future was going to be like, which is why you hired him to begin with, Sherrone Moore. But your initial reaction is probably, yeah, we get to hire a proper. We get to do a proper coaching search and get to hire someone who would be reasonable for the job. Well, that might be true for your initial reaction, but I'll guarantee you this. A lot of people, at least what I saw on social media yesterday, were kind of in two camps after it got reported that he was arrested. And I'm not going to get into necessarily the details as to why that was the case. There's a lot of rumors out there, and I'll just say some of those rumors that are out there that might be true. Pretty sad, to be honest with you. Very disappointing how that went down. But I mean, look, this guy's a wife and kids, whatnot. A lot of folks are impacted by this. This isn't your classic coaching firing thing where it was a performance-based firing. It was definitely a workplace toxicity issue. I mean, again, I lost a lot of folks, kind of feeling sorry for him and, hoping he was going to be okay. Then you have other folks memeing on it and clowning on it, which is, the internet to do its thing. But just as a reminder, I mean, these are real people and these are real human beings who are dealing with job losses for different reasons. But yeah, very sad situation in terms of if the details are true about how the arrest went down and what actually was going on. Very disappointing, I'll just say that, how this is all transpired. But that's not why you guys are here for. You guys are here for what's the future of Michigan football, okay? Just to be clear, this is not what happened last time when, the coach won the national championship, leaves the NFL on top of, the impending scandal stuff from the NCAA. This is not that, okay? The last time this job was open, it was filled the way it was because the future was not known in terms of what the NCAA was going to do with your programs. That's why you did the promotional thing, bring someone in to shepherd the program for a couple of years. And then if it works out, you keep them. If it doesn't work out, if you're on the field or off the field, you can move on pretty easily. That's what happened. So Michigan is looking for a new head coach. Now, the thing that I will pose here that not a lot of folks are talking about is I know a lot of folks are talking about, well, who are the top candidates and who are the ones that will be targeted for this job, mainly including sitting head coaches. That is certainly important, but the more important thing that as interesting that a lot of folks are talking about with only a handful is who is making the hire. Because there's a lot of feelings out there that Warren Manuel, the current AD at Michigan, he will not be making the hire. That's my personal opinion. He will not be making the hire. He'll probably either resign or get fired, mainly because of the multitude of scandals, whether it's related to the NCAA stuff, now this current stuff, Sherrone Moore. It's a lot of baggage. I know a lot of people will use the joke of, well, there's baggage at the airport. Everyone has it. Well, that's true, but with these type of scandals with the sign stealing stuff, look, you can look at it different ways. You can be a defender of the past administration or not. It still exists and it's out there. And now you have the stuff for Sherrone Moore. I just don't think he's going to make the hire. Warren Manuel is all I'm going to say. I think there are probably plans in place to have him replaced. And then there's also, on top of that, Michigan has no current university president. It's interim president, right? So there's that aspect to it. So who's making the hire? It's who I'm more in the immediate situation. That's how I'm more worried about. Who is going to make the hire? Is it Warren Manuel? Do they still trust him, given how many scandals have been going on with him and now the whole Sherrone Moore stuff? Or is there someone else outside of the current walls of the university? That we don't know yet. So we don't know who is making the hire necessarily. I think it won't be him. I think it will be someone else, a new AD. And then, of course, they still have to hire a new president. So, yes, the current administration situation there, the political hierarchy, is not set in stone yet. So we don't know. But I will say this, in terms of the candidates, there's a lot out there. The big one, of course, is Kellen DeBoer. Now, this is not the Penn State situation. The Penn State situation was, they struck out on, utopian hires, unicorn hires, whatever adjective you want to use. They didn't get them. And then they eventually settled on Matt Campbell, who they probably should have been looking at before, but they didn't because, Matt Campbell, we're not good enough for that. Well, you were good enough for him. So the Kellen DeBoer sort of steam picking up is real. I think the fact that he is being mentioned more on the forefront than on the backside of it, like the Penn State thing, that's why I feel like he is a player for this. Not to mention he has history in the state of Michigan. He coached at, I believe, Eastern Michigan, for a couple years. He does have Big Ten ties. He was at Indiana with Tom Allen, the current DC at Clemson. He also has a lot of success in that route in that region of the country, both on the FCS level at Sioux Falls. So there is reason to think that. Now, he's in there. I know folks are bringing up Brian Kelly. No, Brian Kelly's not going to Michigan. Marcus Freeman, no. But I think Kellen DeBoer is probably the name that this search will end and stop with. At least, not necessarily stop with. He'll be the name that this search will begin with, I think. Then after that, I don't know. To be honest with you, that's the best way I can put it. I don't know. but the Michigan job is open. But like I mentioned on, I don't think I mentioned this on Twitter, but I didn't mention it some other places. The two names I'll be interested to see here and who will be named if this search ends up going past like the big, bigger names, uh, like the bigger unicorn type names or the utopian hires, right? Like Kalen DeBoer, those type of names. Is these two names the ones that I am more fascinated in? Again, if it gets to this point, is Glenn Schumann, the current DC at Georgia, who I thought could have gone and looked at during the Penn State search. He didn't. I'm surprised he hasn't gone and looked yet. I think he'll be an interesting hire. Again, I know a lot of folks kind of are in this mindset of, well, we kind of don't want to hire the DC or the coordinator because, well, we don't know if it's going to work out or not. He has no experience. Okay, well, Kirby Smart was at Alabama for what, like 7 or 5 years or so before he took the Georgia job. And before that, he was interviewing for the Auburn job. He had no experience being a head coach at all. And look at what's happened to him. He's like the best coach in Georgia history. So don't give me that in terms of the whole shtick about, well, he's a coordinator. We don't know if he has no experience. Okay, well, whatever. Like, you have to experience somehow. You have to start out some way, right? So Glenn Schumann, if it gets down to that point, I would be interested in his name. Another name, if you want to go to the established G5 realm, someone who is relevant in that part of the country, Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky. Again, I know that sounds kind of gross if you're a Michigan fan or a Michigan exterminator or a Michigan admin, like, Tyson Helton, Western Kentucky. Well, he has been uber successful, multiple 9-win seasons. I think he even has a 10-win season in there. A great offense. He's more of an air raid guy, very different than what you're at Michigan. But it just, I wonder as to why he has never been mentioned for any of these big jobs. Tyson Helton, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why has he not been mentioned for any of these bigger jobs? And I feel like this will be the type of job where I think his name would come up if it gets down to that level, like if it goes the route of the Penn State situation. But that'll be interesting. Now, and I will end this whole segment with this. When Josh Payne mentioned that this coaching carousel cycle was maybe the craziest we've ever seen, I don't think he was referring to the Lane Kiffin, Hugh Freeze, Brian Kelly thing. Like, that was crazy, but that was standard, right? That was something we have seen before in terms of recent years, but that happened, but didn't happen like in the middle of the year, like in the middle of the season. Usually happen after Thanksgiving. This is, I think he was referring to the crazy stuff. And give it, credit to Josh Pate. He did a good job of giving us riddles and stuff like that, giving us little crumbles of what he was hearing. I think he was referring to this. I think this is the crazy thing he was referring to, because there is a scenario that is out there, and a lot of folks have talked about it, but I kind of think this would be insane, and this would be the true chaos scenario, is what if Kalen DeBoer does go to Michigan? He leaves. Okay, so the Bama job is open. We know that, I know this, a lot of folks will disagree with me on this, but I know for sure from people who have talked about this publicly that if that Bama job ever opened, right, if Kellen DeBoer were to go to Michigan, I guarantee you Lane Kiffin's name will be number 1 on that list. I know that sounds crazy. I know a lot of folks have said to me personally or on the internet saying, oh, Lane Kiffin to Bama, that would never happen. Bama doesn't want him. Okay, where's your sources at? Is that your opinion, or do you know that for sure? I think if Kellen DeBoer were to leave Alabama and go to Michigan, I think Lane Kiffin would strongly consider it. And if he leaves and takes that job, then the LSU job is open again. And then, as you can see, I think you guys pick up what I'm trying to say here, is that if DeBoer were to leave Bama, the chain reaction that would have on the sport would be something that we have never seen before, ever. Like, that would be really insane, how many jobs would just reopen in general, right? Again, the LSU job, if Lane Kiffin were just for some reason leave LSU to go take the Bama job, which is not out of the realm of possibility here, and there's a reason why Josh Pate and those guys on Get Up this morning were talking about it, because it's a real possibility. Again, if Lane were to leave and go take the Bama job, that would set off a whole bunch of chain reactions, and multiple jobs that were thought to be secured would be in play of opening or even reopening. So buckle up here, is that this might get really wild here. And I think the timeline here to, I guess, one of this, the timeline for this hire, if it is going to happen, has to happen before the portal opens. So that'll be after the New Year. So my thinking is they are probably going to want to hire done before Christmas. So I think probably the Monday of Christmas, I think, is when we will probably have this job open up, which means I think a lot of folks in Ann Arbor, Michigan, are going to be watching that Bama OU game with a lot of interest. So there's that. Sherrone Moore, the Michigan, fired from Michigan. Michigan job is open, and we have a complete chaos scenario on hand here. Welcome to college football if you're new here. And also be sure to subscribe to the channel and whatnot. Helps us out. Okay, I'm going to get some water real quick. We'll go into the first round playoff predictions. Again, the games not involved in the G5, we'll save those for a later time, next week. Texas A&M, Miami. This will be a noon kickoff on ABC. Texas A&M, according to FanDuel, is a 3.5-point favorite. Like I said on Tuesday, this is a great helmet game. Great helmet game, okay? You have two of the not like the more historic programs, is like Miami has more history than A&M does. They have more championships, more recent history, albeit that's 20 years ago. A&M's last national title was in the 1940s, way before my time and most of your grandparents' time. So it's been a long time ago, but these are, again, a very good helmet game here. You have A&M and Miami. I just wonder how much of an impact will the Miami defense have against this A&M offense? That's the key to this game, because this is the reason why you brought in Corey Heverman, the DC who was there. He came via Minnesota. This is why you brought him in for games like this against offenses that are operating at a very high level like A&M is. And yes, he can bring up both. They lost to Texas. Well, it was on the road. It's a rivalry game. Get over it. It happens. It's college football. And especially in this new rule, you're not going to go 12-0 all the time. Go ask Ohio State that. So that's the biggest matchup here. Can Miami secondary hold up versus A&M receivers? A&M receivers, Mario Craver, Concepcion, whatever his name is, those guys are going to eat. Like, they are going to eat. Marcel Reed will get his yards. I think he'll probably have the opportunity to get his yards and both running and throwing the football. But I'm more interested in hearing what the Miami secondary will look like, because they have not been really tested that much. Like, even in their losses, like the Louisville game and the SMU game, like, I don't even remember SMU really getting that many passing yards. I don't recall that. I think they mainly ran the ball pretty well, if I recall correctly. That game was like a month ago, so I don't recall that correctly. At least I don't remember that fully. But I mean, even the Louisville game. To me, the Louisville game was different because that was a lot of turnovers and the offense was sticking it up. And it's Jeff Brom, and even then, I don't think they really ran the ball or threw the ball that much either. So even in their losses, I just don't think, at least off the top of my head, that Miami's really been tested that much, and especially in the passing game. Like Florida State, no. Some of the other teams like Syracuse, obviously no. So, and like Notre Dame, kind of, but not really. But maybe that's the best example. That's like the best example you've had of a decent passing attack. So, yeah, I guess maybe besides the Notre Dame game, you haven't been really tested that much. And this will be the biggest test for you this year, because again, those A&M receivers, they will get the yards, and A&M will certainly have their quarterback, Marcel Reed, get his yards for sure. Right? He will have his yards on the ground and through the air. Now, as for Miami offensively, as we do the old Josh Pate style paper pop, they have to avoid turnovers. They have to avoid the turnovers in crucial moments. Happened against SMU, happened against Miami, or happened for Miami against Louisville. They turned the ball over like 5 times in that game. They can't let that happen. They need to make sure they get a security football, because A&M, if they can, I can sort of imagine it here. Miami's driving, or they have, the first possession, they drive down reasonably towards the midfield, turnover, interception, fumble, A&M goes on the field and scores 7-0 already. Like, they just cannot get these crucial turnovers in these crucial moments. They cannot do it, because they've done it in their 2 losses to where they've had turnovers at bad times. So they cannot do that, okay? Especially if it's a close game. They cannot turn the football over, okay? So we need the good Carson Beck to show up for this game to be a Miami win, especially in the crucial moments. Again, I cannot emphasize that enough. And same with A&M, too. Like, A&M isn't necessarily turnover-prone either. I mean, Marcel Reed has had issues with that at times this year. I think the Texas game was definitely highlighted it a little bit more. Was not as bad as Miami, but yeah, that offense of Carson Beck, again, they cannot turn the football over. If you don't do that, and they have, Carson Beck has an efficient day, he's able to carve up an A&M secondary. It can be had on, by the way. They can, they gave up some yards in Notre Dame, which is their, Miami and A&M's common opponent. Give up some yards against Arkansas. They gave up some yards against Texas. So they can be had on too. So Miami, with their receivers too, they can have some success as well. But it's really, I think, in my opinion, the key to this game is going to be Miami's defense, and led by Corey Heverman, the DC. This is why you brought him in. This is for games like this. This is why you brought him in. And I just wonder, can they get those stops, Miami defensively against A&M if it's a close game? And also, by the way, not turn the ball over. I imagine that I don't know. The other big issue for Miami here, and again, look, it's not like I'm dissing Miami. I just have a lot of questions about them, unlike A&M, who I have least amount of questions about. But for Miami, A&M's defense, especially in the run game, is probably pretty efficient. I don't know if Miami can run on A&M. I don't think they can. And it's also on the road where Miami has they haven't struggled, but they haven't necessarily been perfect either. So that's another factor too. Like they're going on the road to a very hostile environment on a on-campus game. So let's look at the model here and we'll look at the FanDuel number again. We'll not look at it, but I'll tell you about it. So again, FanDuel number again, A&M -3.5. The CFP Nerds model, not necessarily friends of the program, but Josh and Daniel do a really good job over there. They have it Canes -11.3. So their model is saying the wrong team's favored. Grant you, I think their model is more of the traditional neutral field favorability. So it's not the best usage of it or usage of a model, but it's the closest thing we have. I kind of disagree with their model. I kind of lean towards A&M here. I think A&M can do some stuff against Miami secondary. I just don't think it's totally fixed from where it was last year. Again, it's better than it was last year. I just don't know, especially if it's a really close game and a high-scoring game. I think A&M's receivers should eat. I think Marcel Reed will have a very, very good day against that Miami defense. I could be wrong on that. And also, I just don't trust Carson Beck on the road. Again, I do not. Based on what we've seen of him, both at Georgia last year and this year, I don't see it. So A&M's going to win this game, and I think they cover. Grant you, it's a very small number, so cover could be they win the game by 5+, but I just don't see it. Hopefully I'm wrong on that. I think this will be a close game, but I'm going to take A&M to win and slightly cover. Again, I just don't think that Miami's secondary can hold up versus these A&M receivers. I just don't know if they can. I could be wrong on that. I could be very much wrong on that. But I'm leaning towards A&M to win and cover. By the way, again, thank you guys so much for joining into the show. Again, we're a little later than usual, but we have still a lot more to go over here. We're not even done yet, but we're going a pretty good clip here. We're at, 22 minutes, so that's pretty good. Again, as we're kind of stopping here very briefly, again, make sure subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 20 subscribers. Well, not close, but that's our goal to get there by the end of the year. So make sure to do that. And be sure to like the streams and the videos, too, while you're at it. Second playoff game. This is the Friday game. This will be Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit calling the game. Oklahoma, Alabama. Game 2. This time in Norman. So literally is a home and away, like NFL style, kind of. OU hosting Bama under the lights in Norman, 8:30 on ABC. We've seen this game already this year. Bama losing at home to Oklahoma. How much will that first game play into this game? Is a question I think a lot of us will be asking. How much will that first game be the blueprint of this game? Is it going to matter? Because in that first game, the biggest thing that really went Bama's way that kind of was the reason why they lost the game was not they gave up a lot of yards or not they couldn't do that, like they couldn't run the football or whatnot. The biggest factor that made them lose this game, the T word, turnovers. They turned the ball over, I believe, 4 or 5 times. Very reminiscent to that Ole Miss game in 2015. That's what killed Bama. It wasn't the offense, wasn't the defense necessarily. It was turning the ball over and getting that defense on the short field, and OU was just taking advantage of it. That was the difference in that game. So can that translate to this game? I doubt it. I don't think it will. And much like a lot of folks, and I agree with Josh Payton, Bud Elliott in a certain extent, the way folks, I know this sounds like we're reviewing the past game, but we kind of are because that's the only real good data point we have for this game. The way folks are picking that Bama game back in November, like less than a month ago, or maybe actually more exactly a month ago, the way folks are picking that first OU Bama game, the way folks were kind of talking about the matchups and whatnot, and how OU's pass defense was very suspect, and Bama could have the whole field day on them. That wasn't necessarily wrong. Even in a Bama loss, Bama still had somewhat decent amount of success throwing the football, and I think they'll have success here. But again, the problem is turnovers were the issue, and that's why Bama they couldn't capitalize on turnovers. So the way folks were talking about that game and previewing it, we're not wrong. They were right, and you saw that reflected in the power ratings where even though OU won the game, Bama didn't move that much in the power ratings. And in fact, much like Huzzah in this situation, Bama's still the favorite, even though they lost the game previously. It doesn't matter. They're still a favorite. And again, I know a lot of folks don't like power ratings. I don't understand it, but that's how it works. Just because you lose a game doesn't mean if you were to play them again, you wouldn't be the favorite. You absolutely probably would be the favorite. That's how power ratings work. So Bama being the favorite here, and we'll talk about the line here in a minute. No shocker here based on that. Again, how much will the first game impact this game? I don't think it's going to. I think Bama, in terms of being able to, get their passing game going, and hopefully they emphasize protecting the football, they should be able to get some good enough yards on OU to be able to win the game. Much like I think folks are thinking the first time around. Now, there is a rumor going around, and albeit there's a rumor that it is possible, not likely, it's something that we have seen confirmed yet, that there might be something going on with Ty Simpson, injury-wise, in terms of health-wise. Like, there's rumors going around that dealing with some back issues, which would explain why he has not been playing very well the last couple of games, right? The SEC Championship game against Auburn. And even against their game against, Eastern Illinois, something like that. That's possible. Now, it's not been widely out there. Like, I think the only person I've seen that's been somewhat reputable is, the CFP Reddit guy on Twitter. So it's not been readily out there, but I think it's more like message board rumors. But I would keep an eye on that, the health thing. Because if that's the case and he's not healthy, then that could limit Bama's offensive output, I think. And that could play into OU's hands here, especially with it being on the road. And yes, I will say for OU, the thing that they have on their side of this game that has nothing to do with the first game is Bama on the road is not very good. It's not very good. They have been extremely shaky, even though they've won their games, like the South Carolina game, Missouri game, Auburn. They have multiple times they've been on the road and they still won, but they didn't look very good. They came close to very much still losing those games. Now they still won, but they didn't look very good while doing it. I kind of suspect that'll be the type of game here. Like, I have a feeling this game, in my opinion, in terms of the road games this year, this one to me figures kind of like the South Carolina game, where I think Bama defensively, again, should be able to shut down OU's offense. I think they will, given they've had, an extra week not an extra week, but they have a week in between. I think they should be able to handle them. But if it is a close game, like I think it will, the one thing I wonder if Bama can really stop is John Mateer's ability to create plays. They kind of didn't the first time around, sort of, but since it is on the road, and given, again, like I said, Bama on the road is a lot different than they are at home for the most part. I think OU, while their passing game won't look very good and the numbers certainly won't be great, I think in terms of the offensive creativity with Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer at quarterback, they will score some points. I don't think it'll be enough to win the game, but they will score some points. Again, I think Bama, if Ty Simpson is fully healthy, and we don't know for sure, that's just a rumor out there, but if he is healthy and that back issue's not a major concern, they should be able to get yards on them. Unlike against Georgia, and even unlike against Auburn, who has kind of a good defense, somewhat. OU and their backside, especially the secondary, is very, very suspect. Very, very suspect. And with a healthy Ty Simpson, a Bama offense that should be hopefully running at peak efficiency, they should be able to get some yards on them. Now, for OU to win the game, it's, again, like I mentioned, John Mateer has to kind of be the hero here and win the game. And also, they need to have home field advantage on their side here. One of the advantages of playing this first round game to the home team is that it's a home field advantage. It should be a pro OU crowd in like a traditional home game. So that I am hopeful, if I were an OU fan, that, hey, if you have the home field advantage, Bama on the road has been extremely shaken. Hey, we beat them already. So we already know their weaknesses and their strengths. So that is also another thing to point out. But I also go back to the old adage of, well, it's hard to beat teams twice. Now, grant you, I was wrong about that last week in the SEC Championship game when I played that game last Tuesday. So I was wrong about that. And I doubted Georgia, and that's to a certain extent, within the whole realm of hard, it's hard to beat teams twice. I will do it again. I am actually going to pick Bama to win, and I think that's how they cover. The FanDuel line, I guess you kind of forgot to touch on that, is Bama -1.5. Again, I know a lot of folks who don't follow power ratings are still kind of confused as to why Bama is still favored. If you follow power ratings, I think this will make sense to you. Now, the CFP Nerds model has OU minus 1.8. I sort of disregard that a little bit. I'm going to go for my gut. I'm going to go for the whole adage of it's hard to beat teams twice. I think Bama wins the game. I think they do it, and they slightly cover, even though the numbers are very, very small. Translation, it's still going to be a fun game. I think you'll see Bama get threatened, but I think they will win the game somehow, some way. So I think I'll be sticking with that there. So Bama wins, slightly cover. And again, I just don't know how much of that first game we'll be playing in this one. I just don't think so. Again, the turnover thing is so erratic, right? You've seen people talk about it to where in these numerical models, like the one that we use with CFP Nerds, or you see anyone else's personal computer model, you cannot predict turnovers. You just cannot do it. It is very randomized, and it's not something a computer can understand. So, look, if it is anything like the last game back last month, to where Bama were to turn the ball over multiple times and OU takes advantage of them, then OU will win this game. But I don't think that's going to happen. At least I don't think it will. Again, emphasize the word think here. So I'm picking Bama to win. I think they'll cover. Don't feel like that good about it, but since it is, again, the old it's hard to beat team twice, I think Bama. Again, the other thing here to mention, we'll move on here, is again the whole Kellen DeBoer speculation. Are they going to be focused in? Like I mentioned during the Michigan coaching search segment, the Kellen DeBoer, him leaving Bama to take the Michigan job, at least that being on the table, that's real. I think that is real versus the Penn State stuff. So, will there be distractions? I don't know. That is to be determined. Of course, we won't know until the game kicks off next week. And I think is that it for the college football stuff? Yeah, it is. We have Marvel news. We have Bucs Falcons. So yeah, good pace here for the show here. Only 31 minutes. Pretty good. Doomsday trailer. Again, like I said at the top of the show, it's not coming out today, or it didn't. Apparently, the rumor that was out there about a Disney trailer coming out today was actually for The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is, who knows when that's coming out. I guess it'll be out next week. And I guess we'll talk about it, even though that movie's probably a little bit of crap. I know that sounds like I'm a hater, but from what I'm hearing, yeah, it looks like it's kind of a little crap. It's not really a movie I think folks are going to be overly excited about, but I digress. So, yeah, that wasn't supposedly the Doomsday trailer. And also, by the way, too, that privatized video that is on, or at least was on, Marvel's trailers playlist, that might be the trailer, but I think a lot of folks are, suggesting that's actually a privated Iron Man trailer for some reason. I don't know if it's like a rights issue or whatever, but supposedly that's what it is. So, yes, the Doomsday trailer was not coming out today. However, it will be coming out next week in theaters attached to James Cameron's new Avatar film, but it will likely be a theater exclusive, which I know at first when this came out about like a month or two ago, a lot of folks were going, oh, okay, they're just saying that because that's what we know for sure, but surely they won't do that. Surely Marvel will release the trailer online publicly, given it's an Avengers movie, they want live eyeballs to see it. But they're not doing that, according to a lot of folks, and that's been kind of the thing all along, that they will probably make this a theater exclusive. Now, will they eventually release it online? I think they will. Now, we'll circle back to that, but yeah, I think they will release it online at some point, but not initially. So why is Marvel doing this? Why is Disney doing this? Well, for two things. One, this has worked before. If you know what I'm no, I'm not talking about The Odyssey. I'm talking about for movies like this, like big, like pop culture movies that are, a lot of folks are going to see. Now, I'm not saying that Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is going to like flop or anything. No, it's not. But that's like a different type of movie. This is more. We're talking about like major event films, like from Marvel, Star Wars, DC. They have done this before. Films like this have done this before, and it's the last time a movie like this to this magnitude has done this was The Phantom Menace back in 1998, I believe. They released it. The first trailer was released with, I believe, a film called I forgot what it's called. It was like some like terrorist movie or whatever. Well, not like should rephrase that. It was a movie about thwarting a terrorist plot, and like it involved like the old trade centers. I know it was before 2001, so not that big of a deal. But anyway, so Lucasfilm at the time when The Phantom Menace was wrapped up filming, and they were getting the trailer ready. They attached their first teaser to a different movie that came out sort of around the same time, I believe. So in time before, and a lot of folks ended up seeing the movie that the trailer was attached to, albeit didn't gross that much money because it's a very niche film that it was attached to. but a lot of folks still went to the theater and saw it. So that's why I think Marvel and Disney are doing it, because it's happened before and it kind of worked. Albeit, though, I will say, unlike in the 90s where you didn't have cell phones and the trailer didn't really leak, and, because, again, cell phones and the internet wasn't really a thing, but there it is a thing now. And the fear is, if I'm Disney, that unfortunately this trailer will leak out either on X, Twitter, will leak out on YouTube and whatnot. They'll probably be taken out pretty quickly, but so that's one reason they're doing it, because it's worked before, and it's sort of a formula that, well, is very rare for movies like this to get theater exclusive trailers, but it has happened before. And for Marvel, they've done it, I think, one time. I believe it was either for the first Captain America. I think they did it with that, because it had like their post-credit scene was literally a trailer for the first Avengers film, and I believe they did it for was the first trailer for Multiverse of Madness was also theater exclusive. It might have been, but they released it like 5 days after. So I think that's the blueprint they're doing, is that they're gonna make it theater exclusive only. Then they'll release it probably the week of Christmas, like that Monday or Tuesday, which I would assume that'll be the case. Now, the other reason they're doing it is for money, right? They want, people to go see Avatar, right? That movie, at least I'm assuming, will make over $1 billion, right? Like the first one did. And I'm imagining that Disney probably wants that film to really blow up, and to do that, they say, "Hey, we're attaching a Avengers trailer. It'll be a theater exclusive for a little bit. Go see it. Go get your ass into the seats. Go watch. Also a really good film as well." Now, look, I don't think it's Avatar. I saw the first one back when I was in like the first grade. I kind of fell asleep during it. Yeah, it's visually cool, but so I have no intentions in seeing it. And no, I don't have any intentions in seeing the trailer in the theater. I'll just watch it like most of you online when it leaks out. So yes, they're doing it for money. Yes, is it kind of weird? They're doing it behind a $15 paywall. Yes, but and that's how things work sometimes. It's gotta do it for money. Now, back to the discussion: will it release? When will it release online, and will it be the same trailer? I think it will release online, similar to the Multiverse of Madness first trailer, which I think was attached to. Was it attached to Spider-Man? Spider-Man, I believe. Yeah, I think it was Spider-Man. I think. I'll have to go do some research on that. But they've done this before. But albeit that was like the post-credit scene, sort of. But anyway, whatever. Yes, I think it will release online, but it'll probably be 4 or 5 days afterwards. And heck, it might even not release online at all. And I've seen this floating around too, where if it does release online, whatever it is, whether it's like 5 days after, or heck, even I believe it was a YouTuber, Everything Always brought up, hey, they could just release, they just could keep it as a theater exclusive and then release something else for the Super Bowl, which I think is actually more likely here, actually. I think what they'll probably do is they'll keep the trailer they show in theaters of Avatar exclusive. So the only people who will see it in 4K quality with their own eyes will be the folks who actually go to the theater and pay money and all that stuff. That'll be it. Then you'll never see that trailer again. Maybe they'll release it again down the road in like 10 years or so. But so yeah, it kind of in the same vein as some of those like Comic-Con exclusive trailers, which never leak online, but eventually they will, and studios will maybe release them down the road for I don't know, for different reasons, for like anniversaries and stuff for the film. But I kind of agree with Everything Always, is that I think the one you see in theaters will be exclusive. So whatever you see in theaters next week will be exclusive to that version. But what I think will happen, I agree with him, is that they will probably do something for the Super Bowl, like I thought they originally were going to do, or even like that, or maybe the College Bowl playoff national championship, probably more likely the Super Bowl. So if they do something for the Super Bowl, whatever trailer / teaser, whatever, it will probably not be the same. It will probably be very, very different. So I know it sucks that Disney is doing this. It sucks that they're not going to release it online, more likely. I know. I get that. But that's how the business works sometimes. Sometimes you have to do things for money. And look, if it's one of those situations where Marvel, look, I guarantee you this, I bet you they really want to release this publicly. But I kind of wonder the whole aspect of, hey, we can kind of do what Star Wars did with the Phantom Menace and do something really cool and have, a trailer that, is attached to a movie, an even bigger movie than that trailer was attached to, and make a lot of profit off of it. I just think that was probably the biggest selling point for me. At least in my opinion, that they were sold on, the folks at Marvel. So, yeah, it's a shame. Probably going to be a theater-only exclusive trailer. We'll still talk about it whenever it's leaked out, and I'm sure there'll be descriptions about it on Reddit and stuff like that. So we'll go over it in due time when it comes out, or if it doesn't. But at least publicly, it will be out regardless to folks who go to see Avatar in the theaters. All right, Bucs Falcons game 2 predictions here. This will be a 7. Is it not 7? 8 o'clock kickoff on Amazon Prime tonight. So it'll be Fowler, or not Fowler. He's not working this weekend, I don't think. It'll be Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Kelly Hartong and company calling the game. Like we talked about earlier about the OU Bama game, same thing applies here for this game. How much of the first game is going to apply to this game for Tampa and Atlanta? The first time around these two faced each other this year, it was a lot of special teams errors from the Falcons. Tampa, a sloppy defense with the offense got going. Will those apply here? A lot has changed though for both teams. Now for Tampa, largely the same for the most part, largely the same outside of mostly injuries with your O-line and some of your O-line and mainly receiver issues. But for the most part, the team is mostly the same. It's not been like the catastrophic out for the year injury kind of. Although Mike Evans kind of matched that profile, but as it turns out, him and now Jalen McMillan are both practicing now. Don't think they're playing today, but I think they'll be back soonish. But yeah, so for the most part, Tampa's mostly the same. Falcons not so much. So the Falcons' new starting quarterback is drumroll Kirk Cousins. He is back. Michael Penix is out. He's out for the year with an ACL, I believe, or something like that. And they also released the kicker, Younghoe Koo, who is no longer with, he's still alive, but he's no longer with Falcons. So, yes, so dynamics for both of these teams have changed since the last time they played, literally. So, a lot of the first game you can kind of toss out. Now, the comparisons you will have, or at least the, I guess comparison, or at least the, kind of the closest thing you have to a comparative data point is last year's games, 2 games versus Atlanta, because that's when Kirk Cousins was starting. And if anything, if history shows them last year, if it's relevant to this game, the Falcons should have a lot of success through the year. Even going back to the first game this year, Michael Penix, the Falcons should have a lot of success for the year. If this earlier year's game, week 1, and then last year's 2 games are anything relevant, they should have a lot of passing yards. I think they will, because in 2 games last year, Kirk Cousins was, I believe, the leading passer in both of these games, and not Baker Mayfield, in 2 winning efforts. So I think one of them was a 400-yard passing game, and the first matchup last year was also Thursday night game, and then the game in Tampa last year, kind of the same profile. So if you're a Bucs fan, that's concerning that you're dealing with Kirk Cousins who just likes playing against you. By the way, too, if you remember, he is the same Kirk Cousins who did that big comeback during the Jameis Winston era, circa 2016, 2015, up there in Washington. So you've had a lot of history with him, and I've witnessed those too. I was there for that game. I was there for, of course, the games last year. So yes, history of Kirk Cousins does not bode well for you. Now, what also doesn't bode well for you is hard to beat teams twice. Very hard to do. You saw that last week with the Saints. So that is another concern as well. Now, the thing for Tampa that I think the key for them here, and I think what I am, at least me and other folks who are Bucs fans as well, are hoping is, can the ground game get going? Because we haven't really seen it pop yet. And we've seen spurts of it, but it hasn't popped yet. I think they can do it. I think with Bucky Irving being, being reacclimated a little bit more now, he's had 2 or more games here of getting used to playing again. And, along with the other stable backs, Rashard White and Sean Tucker, I think them running the football and doing it successfully is the key here. Now, the other key is, can Tampa's O-line hold up? Because they really did last week. I think I may have not mentioned that on the Monday or the Tuesday show. The Bucs O-line last weekend on Sunday in the rain against the Saints was pretty bad. And I don't know if Tristan Wirfs is playing tonight. I don't think he's going to. If it's the same lineup as last week, then I think they might be in trouble a little bit. Now, a great show again out with Tampa. Never, I guess, good for them. I guess never positive if you're looking at it as a positive is that J.R. dealing with Raheem Morris. It was, I'm not trying to be mean, but he is kind of a dumb head coach, and he's also probably on his way out in terms of him being back next year. I don't think he will. So, yeah, you're dealing with a dumb head coach. You hopefully can run the ball a bit more. The offense should be, I don't think it'll be raining. Let's have that on go forward. It won't be raining this time around in Tampa. But I don't know. I guess the way the season has gone and the way things have gone lately, I would just say this. I just don't trust Tampa right now. I just don't. With whether it's the injuries on the O line, the inconsistency on defense, especially. Like, again, you're facing Kirk Cousins. The last two times you faced him, like which last year, you looked pretty bad. In the secondary, I just don't trust Tampa right now. I don't. So even though the Bucs are minus 5.5 somehow, according to FanDuel, I think the Falcons will win the game outright. I just will. And look, I hope I'm wrong on that. I'm not a nihilist. Hopefully it's reverse psychology. If it is, then, kudos to me, I guess. But I just don't trust Tampa right now. I think the Falcons will win the game outright. I think Kirk Cousins being back there instead of Michael Penix, that should make you a little more nervous if you're a Bucs fan, because Kirk Cousins, the last time again he's faced you, he is thrown for almost 1,000 yards by himself in those two games. So that's very, very concerning. And with a Bucs secondary that has proven to be pretty poor, I don't see how that doesn't change. So, and with that loss, that means the Carolina Panthers will be the number one seed in the first, or will be first place in the division. So if you're Tampa, for your sake, you need to kind of win this game to continue to have yourself separated from the Panthers. But I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it. So Falcons will win the game outright. No feel on the line whatsoever. And that's the show for today. Very good show. You're under 15 minutes. That's pretty good. Good clip for the show. Again, told you guys I thought it was going to be a really, really, really good show for us today. I guess you can check here and see how the audio is going on YouTube. Should be still fine. I think I can still hear me. Check here. Yeah. So that's it for the show. So we'll be back next Tuesday, I believe. I think. Time to be determined. I think we should be able to go as usual. Though we probably won't have a Thursday show next week. I don't think we're going to. So the show, in terms of the live shows after Tuesday, are going to go dark a little bit. Kind of getting ready for the holidays and whatnot, because it is, this time next week will be a week from Christmas, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, so we'll be back next Tuesday as per usual. I think no live show Thursday, or not. No live show next Thursday, more than likely. Stay tuned with that. Also, probably no reaction show or nothing on Saturday or Sunday, more likely. But we'll see. I'll let you guys know on Twitter what we do there. Of course, the Heisman ceremony is this week. Saturday, if you want to have my opinion on it, I think it'll probably be Fernando Mendoza, but at least that's why I think it will be. But now who it should be, I think it should be Diego Pavia, but that's just me. But that's also happening, so we'll kind of react to that on the Tuesday show. That's when we'll also, by the way, do the other two playoff games involving G5 teams. So we'll be doing that. Now, if anything breaks in between now and then, like if there's any news on the Michigan stuff, during between now and then, we'll do an individual video for that. But we'll see. I don't think there will be anything in between now and then in terms of a coaching hire. I doubt that. So until Tuesday, enjoy the weekend. I believe there is a bowl game, and there's also, of course, Army Navy. So enjoy that, but mainly enjoy the Sunday games. And this Sunday, by the way, in the NFL, no, it's not like the main sports we cover here mainly, besides Tampa. Kind of a low-key good weekend. So how about that? So until Tuesday, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week or end of the week. Take care, and we'll see you guys on the next stream.